You're listening to WRUULP, Savannah, Georgia, 107.5 FM, WRUU.org. We are Savannah Soundings, community radio with global soul. You're listening to music local and sustainable, and I'm your host, Dave Lake. I do hope everybody heard the "and soon colored blankets," and now colored blankets, and so white blankets. How did that idea of progression of time come to you?
Yeah, I was recording with Jason already at that point. And so I came in, we were going to do one song that day, and I was like, yeah, I got this new one. He's like, all right, let's do that one instead while it's fresh. I think when I was playing and singing it, like writing it to myself, I started dealing with the idea of progression, but I think I'd screwed up. Like I was playing and singing, and I think I just screwed up the chorus once and changed the tense on what was going on. And I was like, wait, if I do that throughout, I can change through multiple seasons, and I can totally change the story, and that makes this song more interesting. So I'm pretty sure that's how I did it.
A happy accident.
Yeah. I think that's what my parents call me, too. But
do you pretty much write for music first, or do you write the lyrics first? Being an English major, I would assume the lyrics come first, but
it's different depending on the song and the mood I'm in. Lately it's been a lot more of coming up with music and lyrics together, but there's a lot of stuff where I've had lyrics just sitting around, and then I'll have kind of some riffs on the guitar sitting around, so I finger pick a lot of stuff, so I'll have a lot of things I like playing, but sometimes I'll sit on them for sometimes a couple of years, and then I might find some lyrics that match up like in pieces, and I'll just scrap like 80% of the song and rewrite the rest, but just keep a few lines that I liked. Or I'd never tried this before. My friend told me about it. It was how he wrote his stuff. He would just write it in his head, just come up with just pretty standard melodies and rhythms, and he would write it in his head and then figure it out on guitar later. So I got a few of them like that. Yeah, it just changes depending on the mood I'm in. Songwriting for me has always been somewhat tied to dealing with depression or anxiety. And when I'm in a better place mentally, it's not always as easy to get songs, or that's when I go back and start flipping through back pages and trying to match up stuff with melodies I already had, which usually I can get something out of that, but I think it's important to be able to create songs no matter your headspace, which is something that I was better at with fiction writing. It's more regimen. You sit down, you do this every day for a certain amount of time or a certain amount of words, edit it later, but get this out for the day. So I've been trying to get a little more disciplined with my approach to songwriting. A lot of crap. There's a whole drawer full of crap, but there's some stuff in there that I'll probably be able to use at some point and be glad that I sat down and forced something out that day, even if I don't use it for a while.
So when an inspiration comes, either a riff or a line or two, you write it down?
Generally, yeah. I pretty much always try to. If I'm in the car or whatever, I think there's a few voice memos I have on my phone of just like a line or two that I have with a melody but no instrument, so I'll just sing them out real quick. But yeah, if at all possible and I can sit there and just play guitar for a while and sing stuff, like I generally feel when something's coming. Luckily, my schedules are to where that I often have time to sit there and focus on it. So I work the counter at a tattoo shop and then the door at a bar most of the time if I'm not playing. So I get a lot of time to myself to kind of be in my head. Too much sometimes, but also it is beneficial for things like that, and kind of just obsessively going over songwriting, which I think is a healthy outlet for my obsessive compulsive disorder.
You find that your mood will really affect your songwriting. Maybe it's the other way around. It's the effectiveness of the songwriting will really depend upon your mood.
It depends. Sometimes I'll be in a pretty good mood. I'll have like some turns of phrases. I'm just like having fun. Like, oh, that's a fun one. Oh, throw another one in there. But then, yeah, for the heavier stuff, which is, I think, a lot of my material, for better or worse, that stuff just comes from someplace inside me that I don't really know where it is or how to fix it. I'm trying, getting better at it. Documenting it at least seems to help, and then using it productively also seems to help. So I've been doing that I didn't even really know that's why I was doing it for so long, but even when I stopped playing out in public or never had any idea of playing again for people live, I was still writing, and that was probably the main reason why. So it's just, different songs come from different moods or different experiences. I try and be pretty open to trying new things, seeing new places, meeting new people. I think all that stuff's important, especially if you're trying to gather stories so you can tell them later on in different forms, not necessarily someone's story exactly, though sometimes maybe someone's story exactly, but also just get an amalgamation of different ideas in your head. You can easily, in a song, you can start really personally, which I've done on a couple, and you can start really personally with some like straight personal details, but then you can just add characters as it goes, and then you realize it's not even close to a song about you now. It's a song about a whole different character, but it gives it that personal feel, at least in my experience.
Melissa's song is very autobiographical.
That one is, yeah.
And upbeat. However, if you compare that to the title song off the new album, Dead Dogs and Dried Up Dreams, right off the bat, that does not sound terribly optimistic.
I actually wrote this one, I wrote this on mandolin when I was, I think, like 19. And I ended up playing it on tenor banjo for a while. And if I played it live, this was back when I was still playing more in Austin and around Texas. I think the last time I played it for years, my buddies and I had gone up for a show in Denton, and I played it at Andy's in Denton on the square. Yeah, I was playing this on tenor banjo, and there's only 2 verses at the time, no chorus, and a little bridge that's not in the song anymore, but the first 2 verses are the same. And then last year when we were getting ready to do the Trinity Opry, or this past January I think, we were doing the Thursday Night Opry at the Trinity, the singer-songwriter edition, I took the helm on setting up the encore song. We did a Traveling Wilburys cover where we could all sing. Initially I toyed with the idea of having a 5-verse song where everyone could kind of sing. And then there was a chorus where people could get in on a group. It ended up not working out in time, but the song became way, way longer than original. Jason Bible helped me out with the chorus, so I was kind of stuck on getting a refrain in there. And he writes great hooks. He was initially skeptical if it even needed one, but he came up with something. The lyrics are pretty similar to what it is now. The melody is the same. I just changed the lyrics around a bit, and especially in the final chorus. Yeah, so this is the first song I've ever really co-written with anyone. And it tells a story that's recognizable, but it's also kind of hallucinatory and a little surreal, but still pretty grounded, I think, in real themes and ideas.
Sort of has that Texas Dust Bowl sort of flavor to it. I guess I'm thinking West Texas more sound than East Texas.
That was what was in my head when I wrote the first couple verses, which dictated how the rest of it went. And that was back when I was in Texas. But it also was initially titled Small Town Family Blues. I think they could really go for any small town or certain types of dying towns in any country, really. It didn't even have to be necessarily an American experience. There's some talk of Christian missionaries coming into town. While they're not offering any sort of real physical relief, they're promising a whole bunch of otherworldly things, which, well-intentioned it may be, but still got to put food on the table. The factories are shut down. Times are hard. So I think that could take place in any sort of smaller community, smaller rural community. Not necessarily just a Texas one or an American one even.
Yeah, I guess I took it very literally when it begins with In our town where all the land was dry, our grandmothers prayed for rain, reaching a claw-like hand up to the sky to try to evoke clouds or rain. A very, very vivid image.
Every now and then, 19-year-old me did stuff where I look back, I'm like, whoa, that wasn't a terrible idea. That totally screwed me up for the future. Thanks for that one, but also everything else. You were a horrible person. 19-year-old me was not great. Every now and then he had a good line or two, though. In a town when all the land was dry, our grandmothers would pray for rain, while thinning hands clawed a bone like at the sky, bright grew thick round their husbands' graves. We buried them out in back of the yards, next to our dead dogs and dried up dreams. Wishes we planned for a factory full of jobs that the spring will never see. Oh, but sure as hell down at the bottom of the well, I will thirsty on fire and flame. No headstone in the dust bowl sand, and no sun to light up no name. In the basement where my father swept, baby brother broke his teeth on glass, while older sister lost her husband to the fold of Christians up around the pass. I heard they promised him all that a body could want, a loving father for all his life. When daddy cuts his face while shaving in the morning, yes, I sure bet mom be made to cry. Oh, but sure as hell down at the bottom of the well, I will thirsty on fire and flame. No headstone in the dust bowl sand, and no sun to light up no name. Crawling out of the valley, I saw 3 old men on a ledge. The youngest one, he flew himself off and hovered just below the edge. Calm down, the air is fine, is what he told his friends. We're riding out to glory tonight, so the backs they turned on him. I was sure as hell down at the bottom of the well, out thirsty on fire and flame. No headstone in the dust bowl sand, and no sun to light up no name. Down south I met a Madonna and child. Their legs were marked with sores. They asked me where I'd go for work. Well, Mom always said I was a whore. So they pointed me to a city of sin with bright lights where the sun don't shine. But no work I found, no response to the sound of cries for my body to be touched. So I went to see young Neil out west, and he'd said that we could play. But I met old Rhonda in the swamp, and we grew a place to stay. Walls of thicket and stone reminded me how I'd roamed. It was then I knew. You told me in bed as my eyes grew dead, honey, you can never go home. Oh, so now here in hell there's only whiskey in the well,
and my thirst tastes of rage and pain. I got no headstone in the dust bowl sand, no son to know about my shame, no son to know my pain.
The lyric speaks to the fact of lack of rain and there's only whiskey in the well.
Yeah, that's at the last chorus. The narrator's he's died by the last chorus, and he's singing from hell. Some people would be stoked to see a whole well full of whiskey, but if that's all you got to drink and survive on, it can quickly become your own personal hell. And then in this sense, it's a literal part of hell for the narrator, or it's just metaphorical, whatever you want to take it as. But in my mind, he's literally just in hell, and there ain't much left.
I guess I was leaning more toward the metaphorical.
That's probably how I wrote it. I don't know, that's why it's fun. I like this song because it can be taken a number of different ways. I think as far as actual craft on song, I think this is one of the ones I'm more proud of.
The other song that I'm glad to see that's going to be on the album is Delia's Mother's Blues. It really tells a very interesting story.
This one is my version of a murder ballad. Murder ballads in American folk music in particular, generally a story of a man killing a woman, usually over a perceived or actual infidelity. That's been the vast majority of them, and it's just pretty much always been violence against women, and usually it's portrayed in a pretty sympathetic light for the narrator, which is troublesome. That, I mean, you can have a song like that, but if there's a whole subgenre of songs just like that, and if that's what a murder ballad's become, that's more troublesome. There's other ones where other people get murdered, but you can sing about murder, I thought, without having to glorify it, or you could also sing from other people's points of views and show kind of the human cost of it outside of the actual life that was lost. So yeah, this one's Delia's Mother's Blues. This was my first attempt at writing from a female perspective, also from a parent's perspective. It was kind of an exercise in songwriting. I only wrote it with 2 chords because I just wanted to make the focus on the song as much as possible, less than the melody. Yeah, we'll be playing this one live with my full band on that show on the 19th. And, it's pretty fun because I actually don't even play guitar on this one live now. I just sing. Our pianist Veronica, she leads the song on piano, and Susanna, our fiddle player, has some parts that really accentuate, and Coy and David, their rhythm section just kind of gives it a nice heavy feel where it's needed. So it's completely different than the album version, but I'm happy with how the album version came out. And yeah, I still play it live pretty frequently. I've been talking to Britt Scott. I'm trying to sell her on playing this one. I think she would do a pretty cool version of it.
Oh, poor Delia, your body is dead and gone. He took you to the creek side, and now you're never coming home. He left your father and I alone. Violence has led you to appear the way you do, and the current like a rotting log, with your cheeks and tongue all blue, and your eyes glazed over too. guess you cheated on him, so he saw you fit to die. It was only partly about the sex, a lot more about his fear. He was a weak man, so now I hold you fine and dear, because you were our only daughter, and I'm too old to have a son. A parent fears for a child always, now all my fears are gone. Oh yes, a parent fears for a child always, now all my fears are gone. Oh, Cordelia, your body is spent and gone. He took you to the creekside, now you're never coming home. You left your father and I alone.
I've been working on trying to get some newer material that's a little less bleak, kind of more playful. There's one I came up with not too long ago. I'm actually pretty happy with that. I managed to get a little bit of weight in there at the end, but by and large kept it pretty playful throughout. I can play that one if you'd like to hear it.
Sure.
That's my most recent one.
And what is this song called?
Well, this one is actually this is about a friend of mine. He told me a little story about his family anecdote that they'd passed down. I thought it'd make for pretty good fodder for a song. I've been trying to write outside my head a little more, so I kind of stole his family story.
Bigfoot, he's a friend of my in-laws. They have him over for whiskey and tea. He likes bourbon the best and politely requests you leave your sugar water in Tennessee. He built a nest on the couch for a whole month while fleeing his second divorce. She left with the cubs, the dog, and the drugs. Tom said, I think it's time you get clean. And Tommy never took much to me. His wife Linda, she loves me like a son. Her daughter is a vision, a bright, bold incision of light in the dark of my life. And Bigfoot, he's a friend of my in-laws. They have him over for whiskey and tea. He likes bourbon the best and politely requests you leave your sugar water in Tennessee. And Linda, she found a friend in Bigfoot. He'd cook a dinner when Tom was away. Though there's been no admissions, there were many suspicions of why Linda's newborn looked that way. All covered in fur, the young baby, she yawned and stifled a cry. My wife's new half-sister was already a darling critter, but Tom loved her the same anyway. And Tom was the best that he could, she says, when pressed about her childhood. He told cornball jokes, he was a decent stepdad, so I'm glad for all the time we have left. Because Bigfoot is He slept in forever last night. He went gentle, no rage, then no light. So tomorrow we'll throw him a beautiful goodbye. 'Cause Bigfoot, he was a friend of my family's. We'd have him over for whiskey and tea. He liked bourbon the best, so we politely request to leave your sugar water in Tennessee. Oh, he liked bourbon the best, so we politely request to leave your sugar water in Tennessee.
Very nice, very nice.
So Bigfoot is a friend of my in-laws.
That's the family story, huh?
That's my friend's family story. I stole it from him.
And at least one younger relative is somewhat hairy.
Suspiciously furry, we'll go with.
Suspiciously furry.
But Tom hasn't really said anything about it, so that might have been their thing. I don't know what happens behind closed doors. Some couples are into, a little third-party business. Who are we to say?
Yeah. We're not here to make judgments. Tonight we've had A.M. Rodriguez in the studio, and you can catch him regularly at the Jinx from 6 to 8 on Fridays. So thank you very much for coming in.
Thank you, dude.
This has been another edition of Music Local and Sustainable, and I've been your host, Dave Lake. Save this time for another show next week.
Well, I know we ain't headed for the Hall of Fame. Gonna give it what we got, man, that ain't no shame. Let me know if you can hear me. Check, 1, 2. Let me know if you can hear me. Check, 1, 2.